You're listening to Drinks and a Movie with your host, Rudy. Spoiler alert.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Drinks and a Movie podcast. You may be hearing a little background noise here. We're actually on the road. I'm joined by special guest, Carlo, my dear good friend. Thanks for being here.
Hello. You
may remember him from the Irishman episode back a few years ago. I think the first year of the podcast, so it's been a while. So a little different recording style here. We are actually on the way to Las Vegas. We're on the road right now. We're about an hour in, driving from Los Angeles to Vegas.
Yes.
So we thought it'd be a good time to be efficient. You know, we're on the road for 4 hours, might as well record. So we got the wireless labs on, and we're just going to test this out, and hopefully the sound isn't too trash, everybody. Thanks for bearing with us. But anyway, this is going to be the first episode in a series I'm also doing on movies that turn 30 years old in 2025. So I've got a list of films I want to cover that all came out in 1995. And this first one we are doing is Casino, directed by Martin Scorsese. And one of our all-time favorites. We talk about this one all the time.
Yeah, for years.
Yeah, so we're finally out here gonna chat about it, man. So, I mean, you know, we're clearly big Scorsese fans. We quote this constantly, quote Goodfellas constantly, mainly on like his gangster type movies and shit. But so we're pretty well versed. Let me give the synopsis real quick, just off IMDb, if I can get my phone open. In Las Vegas, two best friends, a casino executive and a mafia enforcer, compete for a gambling empire and a fast-loving socialite. I feel like there's probably a better one here. Let me find another one. Here we go. In 1975, bookie and expert handicapper Sam Rothstein, Ace to his friends, goes somewhat legitimate when the Chicago-based Italian mafia hires him to run the Tangiers Casino on the Las Vegas Strip. Ace can do the job, applying for his gaming license despite his past, while having his ever-changing job title be anything but running the casino, and the actual license getting lost in the never-ending process. Ace's best friend from childhood, Nicky Santoro, eventually comes along for the ride. He, who the mafia hires to be Ace, an organization's unofficial protector. Ace is able to make a success of the casino, which includes the process of the mafia bosses being able to skim profits off the top, while making the entire business look legitimate to the authorities. Ace's success is placed into jeopardy by Nicky, not only by his reckless, violent, volatile, and ruthless behavior, but also by his want to eke out his own gangster fiefdom in Las Vegas. It is also placed into jeopardy by Ace's wife, Ginger McKenna, whom he knew was a hustler when he married her, and whom he wants to trust in every aspect of the word in his love for her. She ends up being a self-destructive woman who, her primary weakness being in wanting to help a friend, loser, hanger-on Lester Diamond. All right, so that was a bit long, but Casino, where to start on this one? Just another good classic Scorsese movie, very similar to Goodfellas, which I imagine it probably got some degree of flack for. Do you know? Would you happen to be aware of that? Like, were people even then saying, hey, this is like the same shit?
I don't know that I'd heard that, but I think they came about 5 years apart. Casino came after Goodfellas, right?
Yeah.
I would have been pretty young, so I don't know. But they're both very much so their own movie.
Yeah, I'd have to look into like what the reviewers were saying at the time. I wonder if Siskel and Ebert, I probably have seen their review on it before when they have their show, and I don't remember if they were talking about that, like, oh, he's doing the same shit again, or it's different. I'd wonder. Maybe I'll cut that into the episode if I can find it, but yeah, I mean, it is stylistically, it's similar, right? And we were talking about even the story arcs. You know, like I just recorded an episode on Wolf of Wall Street with another friend, and it's that same kind of story arc that Scorsese's drawn to with criminals, particularly mafia-type criminals.
Oh, yeah.
And just kind of their rise and then their fall, right? Like getting everything they want, living this crazy life. It's all good. And then for one reason or another, usually because of over excess they're dealing with and not holding their shit together, it all kind of falls apart. And I think it's all stories worth telling, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
And I really like the performances, you know, all around. Like we have Joe Pesci again, who actually won an Oscar for Goodfellas, if I remember correctly. And I will say in this movie, he does play a very similar guy, right? Like, you'd agree with that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, in both movies, like, he plays like a deranged person. Like this is not a healthy man. You know, like the way he deals with his problems.
Yeah, super hot-headed. And I really like De Niro, because, and people have tried to argue with me on this before on, he plays the same person in every movie, and maybe now kind of as a joke, but even if you look at his character Ace Rothstein and then Jimmy Conway, his character in Goodfellas, even though they're both in the gang shit, they're both two completely different people.
For sure, yeah.
Like Jimmy Conway was way more unhinged. He was almost just as violent as Joe Pesci's character in that movie, Tommy.
Yeah.
But in this one, he's a lot more, I'd say, put together, and he keeps it pro. He knows what the job is. He knows what he's there to do, and he's doing it.
He's almost not really even a gangster. Like, he really is like a professional gambler.
Yeah.
And, and he makes money for the mob. You know, if you want to split hairs, but
yeah, he's kind of like a gangster adjacent. You know.
I also think it's interesting that despite being Italian, he plays an Irish guy, Jimmy Conway in Goodfellas, and then Sam Rothstein, Jewish guy in Casino, which, I don't know, take it for what it is, but it's interesting to me.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. And I mean, he's just has great range. Like, I always considered De Niro one of my favorite actors. And again, even if we talk about just his performances in the filmography of Scorsese movies alone, I mean, look at Taxi Driver, a whole other different character. Mean Streets, entirely other different character.
Right.
So, I mean, there's just 4 examples that show that he can play very different people. And tell me what you think of this. I've always wanted to discuss this aspect of the movie with people. There's some points where, Ginger, Sharon Stone, his wife, and Joe Pesci, like, they talk about, he's changed. He's changed so much, and he's this and that, and he's got a big head, and blah, 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 and he's causing all these problems. And it's always frustrated me, because in my mind, and I wonder if maybe I'm just not, if maybe I don't know. But I feel like he's the only one that keeps it cool. And if it were up to him, he would have, besides him marrying Ginger, which he knew was a fucking mistake, but did it anyway because he was so smitten. But besides that, like, I feel like he's pretty consistent throughout the movie. And it's the people around him that are blowing it.
I think I pretty much entirely agree with you. Yeah, like he doesn't really get into like drugs.
Yeah.
He doesn't get into to robbery. Like, he very much so stays on his gambling grind, as a professional bookmaker.
Yeah.
So you gotta hand it to him. But it is really strange that for as disciplined as he is, he makes this terrible bet, and he calls it a bet in the movie where, basically him and Ginger sit down, they talk about getting married, and, it's basically like, we don't love each other, you don't love me, but, maybe someday we might, we should get married for that.
Yeah.
It's kind of strange, but, love is like that.
He does say at one point too, he's like, for a woman like Ginger, love is very expensive, or love costs a lot of money, and you're just buying her like millions of dollars worth of jewels. And I do like the way that's all set up too, when they're at the bank, and it's like, all right, you're the only one who has access to this money, this account.
Yeah.
And he explains that that's like his shakedown money, like all cash. If something were to ever happen to him, he gets kidnapped or held for ransom, like that's what they've got.
Right.
And so trust is a very big thing with him and his relationship with her. And even the banker dude is like, man, you must really love each other.
Yeah, right.
And he's like, oh no, it's very unusual for husbands and wives to do this.
Right. And that's early on, and then later on you think about that scene again. There's a really cool shot in there when she's looking at the jewelry with the baby.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a blurry shot, but you can tell it's like gold and jewels. Yeah. I don't know if this is just my imagination, but I take that as like, like through the eyes of the baby. But
Oh, maybe.
I don't. It's all blurry, kind of. But you see something. Who knows? I don't know.
I never thought of it that way, but that's probably. I mean, yeah, you can definitely take that.
Which, like, that's another thing with this movie. Like, you got to feel bad for the kid who bears witness to this like whole life in Las Vegas. Like, the daughter's there, and it's.
Dude, when she's like freaking out near the end of the movie at the house and like crashes the car.
Yeah.
Dude, and I love that it's actually Don Rickles' car too, that she just keeps like banging into. Yeah, there's a moment when the cops are taking her away and you see like the daughter in the window just standing.
Like that eats me up a little bit. So.
Yeah. And like you were saying earlier too, even the part when she's like tied up in the room.
Like, what the hell?
But it's crazy that, a lot of people have weird toxic relationships like that, man.
Yeah.
Like, and not just her and Ace, but then also the fact that, she's a hustler and is so beautiful and this and that, takes care of people and seems to be doing very well on her own.
Like, they talk some figures in the movie. Like, she cashes out for like $6,800.
Yeah.
Like, this is the 80s, like, that's big money, for a day's work or whatever she was up to.
Dude, and to think that even with all that, even the way Ace is kind of smitten by her and almost, controlled by her in a way, she's controlled by James Wood, Lester Diamonds, who isn't even out there. Like, the ex-pimp, junkie boyfriend, right? Fucking leech guy, and he just
can't let him go.
Yeah, and he's just spinning all this, I love you and this and that, and just do what you got to do. It's stable for you, and then you can come back. But she keeps sending him money. It's like, I don't know, man. It's weird that people, like, I've met a lot of people that are in, like I said, just weird situations like that, dude. It's very bizarre, but whatever.
Yeah, it's not simple, and it does feel very real.
Yeah, I got to bring up, we were talking a little bit about Scorsese's shooting style when we were talking about Wolf of Wall Street earlier. It's like, I just love how, and I have to bring this up with so many of his movies, how intentional he is with the shots he chooses and doing transitions and how he can keep the pace up so well, just the way he moves the camera. And, it's kind of similar and good. Like, he just knows when to push the camera in on the dolly or do a cool, like, steady cam move or techno crane move from up high, and the camera will come down and to like a close-up of Robert De Niro and all that. And there's a lot of like whip pans where it'll pan from here to there, and then in the pan it'll cut to like another shot. There's one point where there's a sequence of people like talking on the phone about some kind of deal, and it does like really fast, like cross dissolves from person to person as the camera. It's just crazy, man. He like, I don't know, man. He just has such an amazing vision and is so good at executing it. And it just keeps the pacing up, and it makes it very energetic.
No, I really feel, the way he moves the camera, like one shot in particular when like there's a bunch of wise guys sitting at a blackjack table, and it goes from, person to person as they're kind of like trash talking each other. Yeah. Like, it feels like you're there in the casino, like it's amazing that somebody could do that with a camera.
Yeah. But I love, one of my favorite scenes is, pretty early on when Ace is explaining just the way it all works. Like, the guy comes in and he takes the money and no one's allowed in the count room, not even me, and all that. And just how the whole fact, like how it's all rigged. Right. He's like, the house always wins.
Right. It's all here just to get your money. That's the truth about Las Vegas. Yeah. Like people better believe that really is the truth.
Yeah. Like, yeah, they keep you stuck there. And with the, he's got to take care of the high rollers, senator type people, and the Japanese dude. I just love. And they're talking about how he's like billionaire cheapskates, still taking all the towels. And
takes us for $2 million downstairs, and then he takes us for towels and free soaps. but they, he doesn't get off so easy because they have the pilot tell him the plane's on the fritz. Yeah, that's a great Don Rickles moment where like you see him talking.
Better like, down here than up there.
Up there, like so many good actors, like.
There's a great shot too, and then he's explaining, he's like, dudes like him, like they start small again, and he's like, but someone like him, they gotta like, I don't remember the line. I'll have to insert it, but he says he doesn't see it as
winning 9,000. He looked at it as like losing 30,000 or whatever he would have made.
So he ups his bets. And I like how he's just standing there. He's got all the chips, and they do that cross dissolve, and then he only has like 2 left.
Yeah, and his wife is crying.
Yeah.
And like, yeah. And if you really pay attention, you know, like to when they first even show him walking back into the casino, like it's hard to hear, I guess, the way the movie's shot, but I think his name is Ichikawa, and De Niro have like a little exchange, and he says something along the lines of like, "Oh, like you want to get your money back," and Robert De Niro looks at him and says, "No gambling."
Yeah, that's right. You're right.
Like the con never stops. Like, that's what people got to realize.
Yeah, they're always on.
No gambling. You just have a room for the night. Yeah, right.
Yeah, no, he really gets it. I love that. What's cool with this movie, too, is, you know, in Goodfellas, the narration is all from the perspective of Ray Liotta, which is Henry Hill.
Yeah.
And then, you know, Wolf of Wall Street, it's all through Leo, Jordan Belfort. And here, something I think is cool is we get a split narration between Nicky Santoro and Ace Rotston.
Right.
You know, De Niro and Pesci. And from the get-go, I like that they established that from the opening credits or scene. And it just, I don't know, it's really neat to like hear it both points of view, especially when they're at odds.
Yeah.
And I like how they'll do, and I don't even know, man, just little, he just draws you in with some of the editing choices too. Like there's a moment, I think it's when Joe Pesci and Frank Vincent are talking, and they're like, they have to like cover their mouths because they're watching them. And all that.
Yeah.
Or
Who's this guy?
Who's this guy?
That's nobody.
But how the narration's going, I think it's that scene, and then what's weird is it doesn't just stop. They like fade out the audio.
Oh yeah,
it's so interesting.
That's
why he made that choice there, but it like pulls you in. To me, it almost, because you're like listening for it, like, oh, it's fading, and it pulls you into their like secret whispering meeting.
Right.
That's how I think about it.
That's super cool.
And I like too, you know, the end, and I'm going to skip to the end when he gets whacked, which is, I think, one of the most brutal scenes. Like the first time I saw this movie in high school, it made me really uncomfortable.
Yeah. When
him and his brother are getting beat down with baseball bats, and how their narration's going, and in the narration he gets hit, and it's like, and that cuts it off. I thought it was interesting. That shot, dude. When they like throw him into the hole and his face is fucked up, and you see him like barely breathing, and they throw the dirt on his face, like that. It's a very creepy shot right there. It's a great one.
Robert De Niro says something like, the message was clear, you know, like, you know, they buried him while they were still breathing. Like that. That's a gruesome scene. That's up there with some of the best of them.
Yeah, making him watch as they beat his brother.
Yeah, right. Like they beat his brother in front of him while he was still conscious, and then, you know, they finish him off and threw him in there. Like, oof.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah, it's wrecked, man. But and the fact that, you know, Frank Vincent, I don't remember his character, and it was probably Frankie or something.
Yeah, it's Frankie. Yeah, just Frank plays Frank.
That even, you know, he had to betray him at that time too, you know, because I was like his number one guy.
Right.
And
he lied for him to Gaji. He's like, no, I didn't see nothing like that, when he's asking him if he's cheating on him or cheating on his wife.
Yeah, I've always loved that moment too, when it freeze frames on him, and then now we get a moment of narration from him too.
Right.
When he's just like, I knew, like, I could end up dying too.
Right.
You know, if I gave him the wrong answer.
These guys didn't like any fucking around with the other guy's wives.
Yeah.
You know?
Bad for business.
Yeah, and no shit it was, right? Like,
and what's the name of the fool that runs the little deli store with Martin Scorsese's mom? Tedesco
or something? No. That's Artie Piscano. That's Piscano. Yeah. Oh man, dude. Like I forget. I think it's this movie where Joe Pesci describes him as a fucking balloon head who can suck up a cup of coffee.
Yeah. Dude, he says that a few times, balloon head. I fucking love that.
I love when he's in the deli, the produce market, and like, he starts swearing because he's kind of like getting all out of sorts. He's like, oh man, I've had enough of this cowboy bullshit. Every month I'm going back and forth. And Martin Scorsese's mother like, enough with the swearing. I've had enough. It's
all I said was freaking, Mom.
I said freaking head. I'm so upset I could hit the two of them in the head with the fucking shovel.
Boss. But the best is, that second time he says it, when it cuts to her, she's like counting money or something, and then she frowns. She's like, it's such a mother thing.
Right. That's enough. Also, she also has a great appearance in Goodfellas.
Yes.
When they roll up in the middle of the night.
Yeah, man. I miss the days of his mom being in all his movies. Yeah, she was great. She just like fits in so well too. I mean, I guess it's the fact that she is like an Italian mother from the
she's an Italian mother
city,
through and
just
through.
Like him, and
you walk in the door, okay, here's food, start eating. No, you can't leave until you eat. That's how it is.
And just so, because she's not an actress, but she just is like, you can tell she's just being herself. And so it's so funny.
Marty was probably like, I need an Italian mama. Like I just, all right, well, I've got one.
Yeah.
Like, that'll be easy. Check.
Man. Yeah, she's great. No, I love her in Goodfellas. It almost makes me wish she had a little more to do in this movie.
Right.
But that's an interesting part, too, because really, and that happens maybe 2/3 of the way in or even halfway, is that scene we're talking about. And that's really where the pieces, like, really started to crumble, was him giving up all these names. And they talk about how that place was bugged over a whole, like, unrelated crime.
Right.
And he was just fucking saying all the names, everyone. And
he had written records of his trips to Vegas, collecting money or whatever. Yeah, they didn't like him.
But I love when he's talking to, it's Remo, right? Remo is like the top dog. Yeah. And he's just like, well, I didn't even get paid back for my expenses on the last trip. I need you to go out there. Like, well, I'm not even getting any money for this. I'm spending, what are we doing?
Expenses, what are you going to do? Already paid taxes? He's telling him, like, dude, why are you keeping fucking records, dude? Like, you're in the mafia. Like, oh, what's this? We got a crazy driver, maybe a car accident. Are we good?
Uh-oh.
I think we're okay. All right. This is why today we're having milkshakes.
Yeah. That's right.
Drink some milkshakes. Delicious milkshakes.
In and out. Got that Neapolitan.
Right, Neapolitan for our Italian friends in Vegas, right? Through and through. By the way, we're driving a Cadillac, which is extra gangster.
That's right, there you go. And we're actually like passing through, the more deserty desert area on the way to Vegas, which those opening shots, like helicopter shots through the desert, and the best quotes. There's a lot of holes in the desert, and a lot of problems are buried in those holes. And he's like, but you got to make sure you scope it out and dig it ahead of time, otherwise, someone might be passing by. Next thing you know, you're going to be digging 2 holes. You'll be there all night.
Be there all fucking night.
Oh man, so good. Oh, so we got to talk about the very opening scene too, man. And I'll let you start with this one, like the dummy switch.
Oh yeah. So I watched it in some form of high definition, and it's crazy what you can see. So they showed De Niro walk out of, I don't know what it's supposed to be, but for people who care, that's the Main Street station today. Might be worth driving by just to see. Like, you can clearly see the spot where he walks out of the casino and the car blows up. But yeah, he gets in, and it's just hilarious. Like, from one moment to the next, you see De Niro in the car, and then like the figure snaps back, and you can just very clearly see the stiff wooden dummy that they swap in from one frame to the next. But it's kind of funny, It was 1995. Like, what do you expect?
Yeah, I appreciate a real car explosion, so I'll take that, like in camera, not some CGI shit. But I was, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say they even go through the trouble of kind of like showing you what happens on the inside, besides the stiff dummy sitting there at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
And how he gets out and why he doesn't die. Yeah.
It was amateur hour, and you could tell.
Yep.
no one ever authorized the bombing, but I think I know who lit the fuse or whatever.
Yep.
No, what's funny, man, is so I watched this movie for the first time, I think in high school, when I was like really getting into films and shit. And I remember that opening made me laugh because it reminded me, and I was showing you the trailer for this, in 1998, there was this parody comedy with Jay Moore and Lloyd Bridges called Mafia.
Okay.
And I remember my dad loving that movie and would rent it and shit. And it probably doesn't hold up at all now, but I remember at the time when I was a little kid and didn't know shit, it was hilarious. But the opening scene of that movie is the same shit where I think I sent you the YouTube video, I don't know if you watch it, when he walks to the car and it blows up. And so when I watched Casino for the first time, it was making me laugh because, and this was a weird choice on Marty's part, is the credits start and it's like the flames, but you see the body like
oh yeah, just like floating around. No, yeah, that's right.
It was a really weird decision to make. It's just really goofy. It's pretty dumb. But so this movie Mafia, and it's crazy to think that it only came out a few years after Casino.
Yeah.
They make fun of that part where Jay Moore blows up in the car bomb and the credits are going and it's all this fire and he's just like, floating around. There's like a basketball hoop and he's like slam dunks. He's like surfing and
that's right.
Fucking super.
Yeah, it was a choice, all right. Like,
it makes me. I gotta fucking rent that movie and see if it is like actually funny. But yeah, they parody like Casino's a big one, The Godfather, all that shit. Like if you watch the trailer, then you recognize all the key moments and shit. Oh god, yeah, it just makes me laugh. I gotta talk about the cinematography here, man, because I'm deep into that stuff, and even this, like, so we're talking like camera movements and editing, like, so his like longtime editing collaborator through Thelma Schoonmaker, like, editing, badass motherfucker. But this was the first movie of his, I think he's done a few of his films, that Robert Richardson shot. So Robert Richardson is the cinematographer that he's been shooting Quentin Tarantino's movies from Kill Bill on.
okay.
So, he's really great. And he has a very distinct style where I feel like he does a lot of heavy backlight with a lot of like bounce coming up off tables or whatever. And I feel like there's always a filter on the lens that adds a lot of halation where like the highlights like kind of glow.
Yeah.
And it's very apparent in this movie. And I like that. I think, I want to say Michael Ballhaus shot Goodfellas. I'm going to feel really stupid if I'm not remembering correctly. Pretty sure it was him. But now we have Robert Richardson. And even though you can tell the directing is like the same, he does have a distinct look. Like you're not someone who's into that stuff necessarily.
I wouldn't know as well for sure. Yeah.
But do you know what I mean? Like they always have a lot of backlight where they're like highlighted. And do you see that glow too?
Yeah, yeah.
How there's that
yeah.
kind of glowy look, which I like, and it fits the kind of Vegas lights aesthetic.
Right. Like there's some shots where like they show De Niro just like against the backdrop of the casino. And
he's like really cut out with like, bright light behind him. It's a really good looking movie. And I actually put the clip of this interview in the Wolf of Wall Street episode I did because we were talking about it, but I'm gonna bring it up again because I just think it's kind of a fun fact. Is on the tip of how intentional Scorsese is, Richardson talks about he interviewed for the job, they did the location scouting, he's hired, he's in. And he talked to the producer about like, well, since we're kind of not doing anything, is it cool if I take some notes and write down some ideas for scenes? And they're like, yeah, for sure. So he sends it to Marty, and then Marty calls him in. Like first the producer calls him and is like down and out, like, hey man, like he wants to talk to you type shit. And he's like, fuck, like he already knows it's not going to be good. And so he talks to Marty, and I guess Marty was like, hey man, just so you know, he's like, I got your notes that you wrote. He's like, but I'm telling you right now, he's like, I will never, ever look at these. I appreciate what you did, but I'm not looking at it. And I already have everything I want to do figured out. And that's what we're going to do. Like that kind of shit. I'm going to tell you what we're doing. Right. And he's like, okay. So I'm just here to light it, basically. Have many directors, like that nowadays.
I don't think so.
But I just thought that was interesting. Like, apparently he's not that collaborative
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think he knows what he wants.
Exactly. Which is cool. I wish I had that skill, man. You know.
I think it's interesting, like, even though it's, a pretty serious movie with some sad themes, there's some just hilarious moments throughout the film.
Yeah, there's always a lot of humor in these movies, man.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I feel kind of bad for laughing at some of it.
Man, I don't. I don't.
I feel like I'm supposed to feel bad. How about that?
Yeah. There's some folks I feel bad for that get like wrapped into certain things, and it's pretty hardcore. One thing that comes to mind is, Kevin Pollak is kind of like the front man,
Right?
The squeaky clean front man for all this. And there's a moment where he has like a former partner that suddenly comes out of nowhere and is trying to do a lawsuit with him, so they sent Nikki to kill her.
Right.
And that's a messed up shot. It's like, when he just like runs into the house, just caps her at the dinner table, and
but then like he
lays her head down.
He so gently lays her head down while she bleeds out. That's gruesome.
Andy Stone, when at the end all the bosses are like in court and they're like, when these guys were over here looking at doing 25 to life in their old age or whatever, you knew people were going to get clipped.
Yeah.
And when all of them are like, oh, he's a real trooper. He's a Marine.
Fucking
we
Marine.
trust him. This, that. And Remo was the one guy that was just like, why take a chance? And then they fucking kill him. Like, such a bummer.
They've got the silencers and they're just walking by. Like, Jesus.
What one shot I really love, man. And the House of the Rising Sun is such a great little montage. Like, but I think his name was Nance. I forget the first name, but the dude that is the one that goes into the count room and gets the suitcase. And would deliver it to the bosses. When they find him in Costa Rica. And you hear the gunshots, in the house, and he runs outside and he goes through another door and they walk in and you hear the gunshots and he comes out the other door bloody.
Right, out of the house, in the house, out of the house.
I love that. So just all in that little, dolly shot. I love that. That was really great.
Yeah, good scene.
Yeah.
It's cool, like, that, just like, kind of like Goodfellas, like, you have that part of the movie that's just dedicated to how the bosses take out the trash. Like, heads roll, because they're trying to, indictments come down.
Yeah, and I feel like it all stems back to, I feel like The Godfather was so influential in that way of doing it. With like, all right, here's the montage near the end of the movie where the people get whacked. Godfather, Goodfellas, Casino. I mean, Wolf of Wall Street, there's the moment where everyone's getting, like, no one's getting murdered, but they're getting arrested.
Yeah, they go to jail.
Like The Fall.
Yeah, how about that whole scene dedicated to the casino cheats? Like, that's a wild thought, to think about how
cheaters justice.
Yeah, right. You can walk out of here. You can have the money and the hammer. You can't have both.
Yeah.
I just want to walk out of here. Yeah, I'll bet.
And that guy says thank you as he leaves.
Yeah, right. Look what they did in my hand, man.
I forgot to bring that up earlier. That's another great scene. We were talking about my friend Steven and how he's into gambling, and I sent him that scene just for fun. But like I said, so he gets on the phone, he's like, well, and the way he explains it too, like even before that, explaining the way the casino works. And I love that they get into these details to set the stage and the context for everything. When he's like, the pit bosses are watching the dealers, the floor managers are watching the pit, but the casino managers watching the shift managers or whatever. I'm watching the casino manager, and the eye in the sky is watching us all.
Yeah.
But even when he explained, would they even have the guys upstairs, like in the roof?
Right, looking through the holes in the ceiling.
X cheats or whatever. Knew every trick in the book. But I love that, the way he figures out that these dudes are cheating. Like, the problem is, he won 3 times in a row or whatever.
Right.
Now, if he wasn't so fucking greedy, we may have missed them. But at the end of the day, these yokels, he always calls them yokels.
Yeah.
These yokels are always greedy. I love that shot too when he like kneels down to tie his shoe. And like as he turns his head, the camera moves with them and he spots the other guy.
They're definitely really in a real casino pit.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not 100% sure on this, but I want to say a lot of those casino shots are filmed inside of what was the Tropicana, but I am just taking a little bit of a guess, but I think that's what it is.
That kind of sounds right. I'm sure they split it between like several different places too.
That brings up a larger point that I really love about the movie. I'm sure you're right about that, and I love how much like actually like in Vegas on location ish shooting there is like.
It's got to be all of it.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, like we're going to Vegas now. Like I can think of like at least 2 places in the movie that are still running, like somewhat as what they were that we could go see. Like we could go to Sam's house. That's in Summerlin. It's still white and pink. It's on a golf course. Like the people just ask that you don't knock on the door and disturb them, but they do keep it kind of like the movie. Joe Pesci's restaurant, the Leaning Tower. It's still kind of a white brick building. It's called Piero's.
Huh.
They show Atomic Liquor. I'm like advertising for all these places. I don't know these people.
Atomic Liquor sounds like a place I want to go to.
They're on Fremont Street, and Atomic Liquor is important because that's actually the bar where Joe Pesci stabs that guy in the neck with the pen. He's like, "Is that a little fucking girl?
Where's the tough guy that told my friend to fuck him? Put it up his ass."
Yeah, so like these are all good shots, and like there's more.
Well, I got it up here. Yeah, so Tangier's was at the Riviera.
Yeah. Okay.
Ginger's last scene, Roots Chris Steakhouse in Vegas. Sam's San Diego house, also in Vegas. Glass Pool Inn, demolished. Attempts on Sam's life. Yeah, Tony Roma's. Fucking A.
Yeah, that's there.
Sam's Las Vegas house, Cochise Lane.
They have Oscar's Steakhouse on the list.
Let me see. Additional Tangier's locations, Bally's.
Okay.
Nikki's Restaurant, yeah, Piero's.
Oh,
Convention Center Drive, yeah. San Marino Italian Grocery, that was also in Vegas.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, even looks like some of the Midwest stuff was all shot in Nevada. Wow. Oscar Goodman's office.
Yeah,
Lester Diamond beating Regency Motel. Oh yeah, Oscar Steakhouse. There it is. Ginger and Sam argue over her spending habits during dinner.
Yeah. Well, yeah, her spending habits. That's like after she kidnapped their daughter and went off with Lester Diamond. Like,
yeah, when he's like doing the math and everything, he's like, and let's say even I couldn't get fitted for 20 suits in 3 days or whatever.
Right? He's like, even if he bought a nice watch, a watch that he thinks is a nice watch, he doesn't know what the fucking nice watch is. Like damn, like you sour. I mean, rightfully so. Like what's happened to him is terrible. Like he really made a big mistake.
Well, and yeah, on the tip of the toxic relationship too, how he keeps like having her, but like there's that moment when he throws her out of the house and it's like, you're done and
come with me now.
Get out of here. He's like dragging her out and I'm going to go and get my money. And he's like, the bank opens at 9 a.m. Be there, But then when she comes back later that night and gets in the bed and he's like, what could I say? I love her. He's like, part of why I didn't want to give her the money was I knew if I did, I would never see her again, And
that was pretty much what tied him together was that promise of the money. Like, even if things didn't work out, like, I'll make sure you're set up for the rest of your life. Whoops.
Earlier in the movie when she's getting all mad at him because she wants to borrow 25 grand.
Yeah.
And he's just like, I just want to know what it's for. It's all right. And she's like, hey, I have to ask you permission for every little thing. And fine, and you don't have to do it. And he's like, no, I just want to know. He's like, why do you need it? That's all I'm asking.
It's a lot of money. I want to know what it's for.
Right.
You're not asking for a box of popcorn.
Yeah.
The shit they say, like, nobody talks like that anymore. Like,
oh, man. With Nicky Santoro, like, and it is interesting. This is the most I paid attention to kind of his story arc in it, of how he on the side is just kind of taking over the town and like shaking down everybody, But when he goes to that one guy and he's like, hey, you got my money for me or whatever? And he's like, oh, so I didn't know you were coming or whatever. He's like, oh, I'm a little confused. He's like, oh, you're a little confused. Yeah. He's like, so maybe how about I stick your head through that little hole right there and we get unconfused.
Right. And then he pulls out the money. He's like, oh, that's why you had it ready.
That's why you had it ready.
Yeah, so we were talking about like how much like on location there is.
Yeah.
One thing that's kind of cool, you mentioned that they, like they're shooting some of the scenes in the Riviera. When Nikki and Sam are driving, there's some really cool shots that I like where they capture in the reflection of the windshield of the car, they have the red Riviera sign.
Yeah,
and it's, I think it's also either in the background or reflected in the window at the wedding, and like it's just cool because like that really was like a mob connected hotel, and like I've heard, I guess, conflicting accounts that like the Tangiers, because that's not a real hotel. There's never been a Tangiers. Like the real story was actually about the Stardust, but
oh right, yeah.
But a lot of the casinos were mob run, or which really means they had a Teamsters loan, and the Teamsters was where they had pressure from the mafia to make the loans. Yeah, so lots of that.
And you said you read the book it's based on, right?
Yeah, so
does it follow the book pretty closely?
Like the story is it's just about right. I want to say the movie might dramatize like kind of like the turbulence of the relationship with Sam and Ginger, but like it was a troubled relationship. But like I think it's just kind of like, I guess, more boring for a movie. Like they don't go into like how much time he spent like working at the casino and like how into it he was. So like there is like he wasn't like a bad husband or dad, but like one thing that doesn't quite come through is like I think he was like pretty neglectful, and I think he had women on the side, which is just kind of like how that like that culture was. But there's just more interesting technical details, like how they actually skim the money, which I always remember this because I think it's pretty cool. So like they show like the back room and all the different denominations of coins, and they're counting them and rolling them. So the way they would count the money, because there was so much, is they would actually weigh it, right? And then they could based on the type of money they were weighing, a quarter, a silver dollar, whatever, they'd calculate how much it was. Wow. Well, what they did was, according to the book, they went and hired people like engineers, technicians who worked at the scale company. They brought them into the casino so that they would come in and recalibrate the scales to weigh 1/3 less whatever was there.
Okay.
Right. So like it would say it was all there, but really there was 1/3 more. This math is terrible, but essentially there was more than what they were weighing, and that's the money that they would pocket. And the weight that they would report would match the money that would get recorded, and so that extra weight that was being calibrated out was still there. And I'm a nerd, so I think that kind of thing is neat.
Interesting. I wouldn't have known any of that.
I've heard other interesting stories from people who've gambled in Vegas in the 80s. Someone told me once they played at a table where it was supposed to be all $5 chips, but then every fifth chip was a $25 chip, and that was like a scam that was being run on a blackjack table.
Huh.
Go figure in Vegas. We've strayed afar.
Yeah. I do like, man, when we get into the end after people are getting whacked and all that, and how they kind of like they got pulled out of Vegas, right? Like Ace was out.
Right.
When he's explaining and they're playing that, I forget the name of the music, but it's the music from the opening credits. Yeah. When there's that shot. Dude, I love this shot.
It's just like the fire. It's almost too much for the movie.
Yeah. But do that shot where it's like the bright light, the doors are opening, and it's just this army of like old people.
Right,
like,
you see the walkers and the canes. I wonder where that is.
And he's like, nowadays it's like Disneyland or whatever.
Right, and they start showing all the tacky casinos like Luxor.
Treasure Island, Luxor. Yeah, the What's the one with all the castle stuff?
The Excalibur. Yeah, because like pretty much like the last of the old school Vegas got ran out by like the family oriented Vegas, and now like that Vegas, now they're knocking down those hotels.
Yeah, it's way different now.
Yeah, like now I don't know. It's all about like partying. I don't know, like, it's all overpriced.
It's been that way for a long time, right? Like, yeah, there's that period, like what he's explaining is they almost made it like kind of kid friendly in a way with attractions like Treasure Island and
theme park,
Mirage, and Circus, and all that. And then that started changing. I'd say probably the last 20 years now, maybe 15 years, where it started to become more adult oriented again. You get all the guys on the street passing out the porn slips and strip clubs and, T.I. and
kids don't gamble.
All that stuff. Yeah, exactly. But funny enough is like I came here for work maybe 2 months ago or maybe even a little longer ago. And it's even, it looks so different than I remember even a year ago when I came for my friend's bachelor party. Like, it feels like it's way less lights and shit than it used to be as well.
Yeah.
It was very like the lights and the colors, and it's very stimulating. Like you said, even in the movie, when they're like driving and you see the reflections passing by on the windshield, like it wouldn't even look that way anymore.
No, yeah, it's different. Like, there's no coins coming out of the machine.
Right.
Like the whole feel. Yeah, right. It's all paper, so like it just doesn't feel the same. Like I think that's one of the things about the movie that bumps me out the most is that it takes me back to a Vegas that like I really can't access anymore.
Right.
I want to go there. Like that's a cool place.
Because back then everybody knew your name, what you drank.
Right. I want some service like that.
Yeah. Now you're expected to give your suitcases to some 22-year-old.
And it's going to want a social security number.
Yeah. That's.
If you order room service, you're lucky to get it by next day. Yeah. Sounds terrible. Sounds like a cruise ship. Like, Jesus.
Yeah, man. I don't know if I have too much else to say about it. I feel like that's Casino.
Yeah,
that's Casino for you. 30 years old. 30 years old.
It's aging like a fine Italian wine.
It feels a little older too, man. Like some of the other movies on my list are Toy Story.
Wow.
Jumanji.
Get out of here.
What else? I have a list of like quite a few movies.
Those are great. Yeah, this is all 1995,
and holds up so well. Like you said, man, it's still paced so well. Still is a very compelling drama. Like soundtrack. We didn't talk about soundtrack yet.
Oh yeah, there we go.
And the fact that Scorsese and Tarantino, I think they are the best and knowing what music to put in their movies by far. Like, no one does it as well as Scorsese.
Right. When everything starts going to shit, like people are, doing a little too much cocaine and getting unruly, here comes the Rolling Stones. Like, just like, like it slaps so hard.
Yeah.
No one's doing shit like that anymore. Like, you don't have the music to do stuff like that.
Yeah.
You have to use music from that era, but it's cool.
And again, with it being so intentional, like I feel like, and I think I may have even heard this before, but if not, I wouldn't be surprised if this is true. I bet you when he's going through the script and putting whatever work into it he's doing, when he's planning out the scenes, I can damn near guarantee you that he's probably writing notes on like, this is the song in this scene.
Right.
Like this is the song, like, because it just feels, again, very intentional. And I've heard about him doing stuff like this before where I think he will even, in certain shots, like play the music on set. So that like the camera, like I think they may have done that with the Copacabana scene. I think I heard that where they had the song going. So everything was like timed out with the music and like the way the camera operator's moving the camera, they're like vibing with it. And because like it's very musical, and like again the editing and all that is just super rhythmic. God, man, it's gonna be a real bummer when he's gone.
Yeah,
because he's truly one of the last great American filmmakers, and I would put him in the category of like the greatest of all time. Easy.
Yeah, no, he for sure is.
Yeah, and honestly, there's still a lot of movies of his I have to see. Like, I still haven't seen Last Temptation of Christ or Kundun.
Right, some of those really old stuff.
Yeah, well, that was like 80s, like mid-late 80s.
Okay.
Yeah, man. Age of Innocence, but I just don't like period pieces like that. Like, this is what is technically a period piece, but I don't like the Age of Innocence style, Victorian, whatever the fuck it is. Mm-hmm. Have you ever seen After Hours?
Oh, I don't remember.
So I did watch that one for the first time maybe a year ago, and I ended up getting the Criterion Blu-ray. That's well worth checking out. That's like a funny one. That's pretty good. It's like, I just love his range, man, because it's quite a bit different from all these movies. I'm like, wow, like, you made this. But it's a banger. I'm going to hopefully cover that pretty soon.
Right on.
But, yeah, man, any final thoughts on Casino?
Watch it.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it, must watch, man.
Yeah, watch it, read the book, and enjoy it, and then go to Vegas and just think about it, and try and like think about the fact that when you're in Las Vegas, you're where that story took place, which is pretty cool.
Yeah,
and that's where we're going right now.
Yeah, we're about 2 hours out. So, all right, well, that's a wrap on this one, everybody.
Awesome. Thanks,
Cheers. Yeah.
Thank you for listening to the Drinks in a Movie podcast. You can now find us on Instagram at Drinks in a Movie Pod, where we'll be posting photos from all the various films that we discuss. You can also email us at drinksinAmoviepod@gmail.com. Please rate, review, and subscribe, and thank you for listening.